whom it will impact. I was recently on this CNBC platform where someone was saying that India will see a V-shaped recovery, uh, that it will go down to the bottom and then quickly come up. Some people predict that it will be a U-shaped recovery. We will take some time before we go up. I heard a new word where some people were saying that India will have a Nike-shaped recovery. Nike का वो symbol जो है, it goes like this and then slowly goes up. But to my mind, the recovery looks more like letter K, where there will be some companies who will benefit because of this COVID, and there are other companies who would kind of go down because of COVID. And a lot of MSME companies that potentially all of us are our clients or essentially we are associated with will bear the brunt of an impact that is supposed to happen post COVID. So, in light of all of that, it becomes important at this point in time to see that what are the benefits available to MSMEs so that we take maximum of the benefits that are available. It is in this testing times that every benefit will come handy, and we and our clients should at least be aware as a first step of what benefits are available and then how do we take those benefits in our day-to-day businesses. Friends, I would like to cover three aspects. One is some background on MSMEs in India. Then we will go on the registration process for MSMEs in India. And then we'll talk about the various benefits that are available today to MSMEs. So if I can just talk about some facts, as per a 2016 National Statistics Survey, there are a staggering 6.3 crore MSMEs in India. And this number would have only increased from 2016. But even if you take a number of 6.3 crore, it's a significantly large number of businesses that are micro, small, and medium enterprises. Keep in mind, this is as per the old definition. If you juxtapose this new liberal definition that Narendra ji spoke about, then this number could be even much more. But 6.3 crore is a vast number in itself. This 6.3 crore can be further bifurcated into manufacturing companies or manufacturing entities, service entities, and trading entities. And by and large, their composition is equal. About 2.1 crore are into manufacturing, about 2.1 crore are into service, and about 2.1 crore are into trading. If you look at the number of companies in India, there are about 10 lakh companies which are registered under the Companies Act 1956 and now 2013. Here we are talking about 630 lakh MSMEs being here. So it's a huge number in that sense. And these MSMEs created 12 crore jobs in 2016 in that same survey. Again, jobs are broadly equal. Manufacturing about 4 crores, services about 4 crores, and trading about 4 crores. So if you see on an average, one MSME is deploying less than 2 employees or less than 2 people. That's the ratio. Now, these MSMEs have received as much of focus in the last 14 weeks that they have not received in the last 14 years. 2006 was when the MSMEDA Act came in, and it's been 14 years. Yes, quite a few of us would have dealt with or known, but now the attention, especially under the Atmanirbhar Bharat and the COVID situation, is much more on MSMEs. And it is the number of jobs that is driving this government focus on MSMEs. Friends, after agriculture, if there is one sector that is contributing so much to the jobs, it is the MSME segment. And India, as we all know, is a capital-starved country. You need capital, you need labor, you need technology, essentially to run a business. These are factors of production. Some countries are very strong in capital, like maybe the Western powers. Some countries may be very strong in terms of their technology abilities, maybe the Japanese and a few other entities. India has an inherent strength of people or labor. And if only if we are able to put that to work, can we achieve our truest potential. So if I have 1,000 crore of corpus as a country, let's take a simple example. I have various choices that this 1,000 crore, where should I deploy? If I deploy this 1,000 crore into one steel plant and give that particular entrepreneur of that steel plant 1,000 crores, he is going to prepare a state of the art steel plant and he will deploy, let's say, 1,000 members as job workers or employees in that plant. So for every 1 crore of investment, I generated one employment. Imagine the situation if the same 1,000 crores I can split into 10 different compartments and give 100 crore to 10 entrepreneurs. They will set up smaller units, they will set up ancillary units, they will set up support units, and each one of them can maybe employ much more than the 1,000 employees that I would have done with one big steel plant. Similarly, the equation goes really in favor of jobs if I'm able to give one crore rupee to 1,000 small entrepreneurs. Because even if they add one employee for that 1 crore rupee, 6.3 crore MSMEs can add 6.3 crore jobs. And today in this mass migration situation where people are going back, agriculture dependency is there, the only savior in job is the MSME sector. And that is why this focus so much on MSMEs in the last 14 weeks is to avoid any kind of social unrest, make sure people are employed, and give money to MSMEs rather than larger companies who will not generate that much of employment. Friends, MSMEs today contribute almost 1/3 of India's GDP. This 1/3 itself, is more than the total economy of various European countries, because 30% of India's GDP is huge. MSMEs contribute almost 50% of total exports from India. It's not the larger listed companies that are contributing to exports. 50% of the total export is contributed by micro, small, and medium enterprises. Mind you, these numbers are again as per the old definition. If you look at this extended definition from Atmanirbhar Bharat, these numbers will further grow up into contribution of MSMEs in India's GDP and India's export. So in 2006, the government felt that there is a requirement to have a formal framework. You can't do with the SSI, or you can't do with the entrepreneurs memorandum, various state-wise regulations. Let's have one central regulation, and that is where the Micro, Small, Medium Enterprises Development Act 2006 came into place. Now, as we speak, from these 6.3 crore MSMEs, trading enterprises are not allowed to get registered under this MSMEDA Act. We will talk more about the application of trading entities, but from the 6.3 crores, 1/3 of them are not eligible to get registered. From the balance, about 1.5 crore have registered themselves under the MSMEDA Act until July 2020. A bulk of these registrations have come in the last 3 months, and a large part have come in the last 12 months. So more and more we are seeing MSMEs getting registered under the MSMEDA Act because of the various benefits and the awareness that is much more than what it used to be. Uttar Pradesh and West Bengal have the highest number of registered MSMEs. Though the number of MSMEs are more in Maharashtra and maybe Tamil Nadu, but registered MSMEs are more in Uttar Pradesh and West Bengal. Maybe because of slightly higher awareness, or maybe slightly better connected to the situation, but registrations are more from these two states. So overall, if you look at this composition and these ingredients, MSMEs are backbone of India's economy. And if Indian economy has to grow to 5 trillion, 10 trillion, all the dreams, then we'll have to make sure that the MSMEs grow big. MSMEs will have to be supported, and only then can India realize its objectivity. So question comes that why does India have such large number of MSMEs, right? Companies have to go big. We see companies internationally, they are so large. We are seeing companies going a market cap of $1 trillion, but India has 6.3 smaller MSMEs. Even if you take our CA profession, we would see that, almost maybe 95% are sole proprietors. And then it is a pyramid which goes into larger firms, which are maybe only a handful of those. So that feature of Indian MSMEs is, to my mind, driven by five situations or five scenarios. The first is entrepreneurship. Now, India is a land of entrepreneurs. As per a 2019 study, India ranks second in the world in terms of entrepreneurship quotient. Now, most of us, in terms of enterprising community, Gujaratis, Marwadis, we would want that bale chota ho lekin apna ho. One of the reasons why many of us, including me, would have opted for practice is that I can do a job also and I can do my own practice also. So entrepreneurship is one lure, and there is ability in Indians to get into that entrepreneurship, which is why you see a large number of pool of MSMEs. Second is the age of the population. Now, as we see, companies also have a life. Companies grow, mature, and then they die. More often than not, the age of the company is linked to the founder. As the founder is young, the company will grow. Founder becomes 45, 50, the company matures. And if the founder dies, the company dies. It's only a few institutions like the Tatas or the Birlas or few others who have gone multi-generational. But otherwise, most of the businesses would mirror the age of the founder. India's average age, friends, is 29 years. And most of the entrepreneurs would also be young. And that is why you see a lot of these smaller companies, because the age of the founders, the average age of population is also 29 years. The third feature is that the opening up has been very recent. It's only in 1991 that to large extent the opening up happened. Private sector was encouraged, license Raj to a large extent went away, and you could do free entrepreneurship. Otherwise, you had licenses and relations that was driving the business rather than entrepreneurship. Now, you would say that 91 till almost 2021 is 30 years. Now, 30 years is good enough for companies to grow. But friends, we are talking in the lifespan of a country where 30 years is very small. I was recently dealing in a transaction where a German company was acquiring an Indian company. The Indian company was completely in debt, was unable to pay the loans. The German company bought out that company. And I was doing background research of that company. The company's name is Saint Gobain. And it is a 350-year-old company. And that 350-year-old company is buying this Indian company, which is 15-year-old. Imagine the strength and the resources of 350-year-old company buying out companies in India. You'd be surprised to know in Japan, there are companies today which have aged more than 1500 years. Just Google and see oldest companies in the world. There are at least 5, 7 companies in Japan which are more than 1500 years. So if you see in that context, 30 years is fairly small. And a recent opening up is also contributing to the smaller number of businesses and large number of businesses. Fourth is we never had an ecosystem. MSMED Act is only 2006. In fact, most of the amendments came in 2014 when the new government came in. And it's only now that we are seeing this ecosystem actually develop and percolate to the masses. If you have seen some industries like the IT industry, you have ecosystem like the NASSCOM. If you see the pharmaceutical industry, it has its ecosystem. It was protected from FDI for a long time. And that is how these industries have grown. But MSMEs never had an ecosystem until recently. And the existing also has a large scope for improvement. And fifth is limited access to finance. All of us would accept that, and as chartered accountants predominantly, that most of the entrepreneurs would always be hunting for capital. Access to finance is difficult rather than, you seeing some of the Western companies where there is funding that is available for various things and various initiatives. So that becomes the single largest challenge for growth, that there is limited access for finance. Anyways, we have limited capital, and then you have 6.3 crore businesses wanting that capital. So what we'll get is very limited, and hence the size is smaller. But I think it's a process of growth. Every large corporation was once a MSME, and I'm sure as the country grows, as we grow, we will see these businesses grow further in their size. How does law define MSMEs? Before the Atmanirbhar Bharat announcement, as Narendra ji also referred to, the MSME, as per the MSMEDA Act, there were two classifications, manufacturing and services. Trading entities are not allowed to get registered under the MSMEDA Act. And there were three classifications of micro, small, and medium. For manufacturing enterprises, there was an investment linked threshold, and so was for service enterprises. But for service enterprises, it was equipment, and for manufacturing, it was plant and machinery. All of that was changed, and in the Atmanirbhar Bharat package, now we have is a composite criteria of investment and turnover. तो ऐसा नहीं है कि इन्वेस्टमेंट चला गया और खाली टर्नओवर है. वी नीड टू कीप बोथ इन माइंड. और अगर आप ये दोनों क्राइटेरिया में फिट होते हैं, it's only then that you can get registered as a MSME in that category. And these criteria are consistent for both manufacturing and services. So if you have an investment in plant and machinery, mind you, we don't have to take land, we don't have to take building, we only have to take tangible plant and machinery. If that is less than 1 crore rupees and your turnover is less than 5 crore rupees in the last financial year, then you are eligible to be registered as a micro category MSME. Similarly, if your investment is less than 10 crores and your turnover is less than 50 crores, then you are a small category. And third is the medium category, where the investment is now increased to 50 crores and turnover is increased to 250 crores. So if you see, there is a 1:5 ratio between investment and turnover. So investment of 1 and turnover of 5 in micro, investment of 10 and turnover of 50 in small, and investment of 50 and turnover of 250 in medium. That's how the categorization is happening. There are some nuances in terms of how do you calculate that investment and how do you calculate the turnover, which we'll see in the subsequent slide. But this is the categorization, and where you fall is where you need to get your registration done. The calculation of investment in plant and machinery or equipment will be linked to your income tax return. About 25 days back, there was a MOU that was entered between CBDT and the Ministry of Micro, Small and Medium Enterprises. Under that MOU, the Income Tax Department will share certain information with the Ministry of MSME. So now when you make a registration under this Udyam registration, you don't have to fill details of your turnover. You don't have to fill details of your investment in plant and machinery. It will be automatically taken from the ITR that you have filed last. You just need to give your PAN number and automatic population will happen based on the PAN number that you have given, because there is now information sharing between the Income Tax Department and this registration. So plant and machinery as defined under the Income Tax Act, as filed under your ITR, will be considered for investment in plant and machinery or equipment. Land, building, furniture and fixture, all have to be excluded, only plant and machinery or equipment. Question always was that, do I take a gross value of plant and machinery or do I take a net after depreciation value? Until recently, it was always gross. It had to be the invoice value, the purchase value. But now they have clarified that one has to take based on a net basis, because ITR doesn't capture the gross value. ITR only has the net WDV. So now the threshold is further low, because a net WDV for many companies will be less than 50 crores. They may have purchased and set up a plant at 100 crores and when they were not eligible. But because of depreciation, if today's value is less than 50 crores, they can get registered as a medium. So a lot more companies are now eligible. One, that the threshold has been increased, and second, on net basis that it has to be considered now. From the turnover definition, if there are any exports, then you need to remove those exports. So we are only talking about domestic turnover and not export turnover when you are calculating your exports. PAN and GST is made mandatory for all MSMEs, and the time frame is March 31st, 2021. Until today, it is mandatory only if you are a company. You need to give PAN. Now from 2021, PAN and GST will be mandatory for even a micro enterprise. So it may be possible that you may not have reached the GST threshold of registration of 20 lakhs or 40 lakhs, whatever is applicable. But if you want to take a MSME registration, you may need to take a GST number and hence do the GST filings despite being less than the threshold of GST registration. Before this Udyam registration, it was known as Udyog Aadhar. And all the MSMEs which are registered under Udyog Aadhar, they now have to migrate to this new Udyam registration. And they have time till 31st of March to get registered under this Udyam registration. Because Udyam is now linked to income tax disclosure. Earlier, it was self-filing. People have filed anything in terms of turnover and revenue and taken all sorts of calls. But now the information comes from the tax department and everyone has to do that new registration before 31st of March 2021. In case after registration, subsequently your investment changes, your plant and machinery changes, or your turnover increases. In both situations, you will have to make a filing that earlier I was a small entity, but my turnover has increased. And now I am a medium entity. So you need to notify that upward change. And from the next year onwards, you will have that new status. Similarly, a downward change also needs to be intimated. And from 1st of April of the next year, that will be effective. It was not clear earlier under the Udyog Aadhar that once I register, do I need to give intimation of any upward or a downward revision? But now the notification clearly makes it mandatory to intimate to them if there is any upward change or a reverse graduation from your category that you are fitting in. Even within plant and machinery, there are certain things that are not to be considered. And you need to take the plant and machinery value after reducing some of these items. So in 2006, this is a notification of RBI that what things are not to be considered under the definition of plant and machinery. And they have listed about 11 items which should not be considered as plant, machinery, or equipment. So if you have paid some installation charges, or if there is some pollution control equipment, or you have paid some technical know-how charges, firefighting equipments, all of these are to be excluded. And then you calculate what is your investment in plant and machinery and which category you fall into. There is a practical difficulty that if the database is picking up the numbers from the income tax department, under the income tax filings, I have not broken up my plant and machinery and I have not removed some of these items. So they allow a flexibility that you can then apply for a change and give them proof that though my income tax plant and machinery is reflected as 51 crores, 2 crores is something that is on account of these 11 items. And hence I am 49 crore investment, register me as a medium enterprise. But conceptually, if you have these 11 items in your plant and machinery, remove them and then calculate your limits into registration into which category. Friends, it is always advisable from a benefits perspective to fall under the lowest bracket. Because as we will see, not all benefits are available to every category. To the small entity or to the small category, there are few benefits. To the micro, all benefits are available. And to the medium, there are a handful of benefits that are available. So if you are on the borderline, it might make sense for you to remove all of these items, remove your export turnover, and fall under a lower category purely from a benefits perspective. The next sort of eligibility is that which businesses can get registered as a MSME and which cannot. So this is linked to the NIC code, and all NIC codes are eligible to register as MSME except these 9 NIC codes. So a chartered accountant providing services can get registered as a MSME, a lawyer can get registered, a company secretary can get registered, a builder can get registered. Only these 9 categories cannot get registered, which are predominantly linked to agriculture related, and trading. So if you see 45, 46, and 47, it deals with wholesale and retail trade. Now, wholesale and retail trade is where they have excluded from these benefits under MSME-DA Act. Most of the others, so other than agricultural linked or other than trading, you can virtually register every business under the MSME and take benefit under the MSME registration. How does one register for MSME? So the government has started this simple website called udyamregistration.gov.in. It's a website which is very simple to operate. I think a lot of us and our clients can do it themselves. If we are able to operate WhatsApp on our smartphones, we are eligible to register this our entity as an MSME. It's as simple. It's completely hassle-free. You just need to put in your Aadhaar number. You get an OTP on your SMS and your email. There is no need for any certification from any chartered accountant, lawyer, company secretary. There is no need to give any physical supporting documents. There is no signature required, and there is no fee payable. So in 2014, our Prime Minister, Mr. Narendra Modi, through one of his Man Ki Baat that he does on one of the Sundays of a month, he said that I want businesses to register for MSME at a click of a button. And the earlier process of entrepreneurs memorandum, going to the district's industrial commissioner, standing in the line, speaking to agents, all of that went away and came this one simple form that you file and you get registration for no cost. Our experience has been relatively good with Udyam registration. In fact, once you'll register, the same instance, you get a reference number. And about 3 or 4 days afterwards, you will get a certificate on your email. Currently, over the last 1 month, there have been some initial issues in terms of registration, but now we are seeing companies who are getting numbers fairly quickly, even within 2 to 3 days is when their registration number is coming. So it's a very simple automated portal that one can use is udyamregistration.gov.in. So once I register for the MSME Udyam registration, why would I register and what are the benefits do I get as a MSME? Now friends, MSME as a area falls under the concurrent list. So it's a part of the central government's initiative and also a part of the state initiatives. So you have various different bodies working together to ensure that the MSMEs have a conducive ecosystem for growth. We have a dedicated Ministry of MSME, which is headed by Mr. Nitin Gadkari. We have the Reserve Bank of India that helps in terms of easing the credit flow to the MSMEs. We have the Ministry of Corporate Affairs that is playing its part in terms of the company related thing of MSMEs. We have the Ministry of Finance. We saw the Honorable Minister of Finance, Nirmala Sitharamanji, coming out and under the Atmanirbhar Bharat, giving various packages for MSMEs. And then you have the state governments, which have their own individual set of policies and benefits for respective units in that particular state. So when we are talking about benefits, we need to look at it not only from the MSME ministry or from a state, but look at it holistically in terms of what are the different things that are available. And this was always a challenge for MSMEs, that how do I know that what benefit is available to me? Most of the MSMEs can't hire, maybe a consultant like Sanjay ji or Narendra ji or some of the smart chartered accountants, but where would they themselves be able to go and see the benefits? So government started a website called champions.gov.in, and all of us can go and see on champions.gov.in, where all schemes given by various authorities are listed on that one place, which is champions.gov.in. So that is one website that one needs to keep in mind while checking out the benefits that are available to MSMEs. And today we'll talk about most of the benefits across these 5 different verticals that are there. First and the most important is the MSME ministry. MSME ministry has more than 30 schemes to support various MSMEs. There are schemes which are into the agricultural sector. There are schemes into the coir sector. You have schemes where you can apply for patent and trademark and get discount. There are schemes under which if you want to do a ISO 9001 certificate, your cost will be reimbursed for getting a ISO 9001 certificate. There are schemes in which you get interest subvention and subsidies which are linked to capital. Is all the initiatives that the MSME ministry has done, and we will have a look at some of those schemes. The second and perhaps the most important benefit today for an MSME is recovery protection. So MSMEDA Act says that if at all there is any credit that is due to an MSME from its client or customer, it needs to be paid within a particular time frame. As we saw, non-availability of credit is the single biggest reason why MSMEs are unable to grow. And when RBI did a study in 2017, the average receivable cycle of an MSME was 160 days. So effectively for 5.5 months, the larger companies were delaying their payments to MSMEs. Virtually, it was financing the cost for larger companies. And if working capital MSMEs are starved, you are looking at a situation where they can't survive for long. So 180 days, 160 days is a big impact in terms of working capital. And the Act brought in a provision that MSMEs need to be made payment within a particular time frame. If not, there are penal repercussions and other requirements, which we'll see in the subsequent slide. The ministry also has a portal called Sambandh. You know, this Samadhan, Sambandh, and Sampark are the three S that will be very commonly used in the MSME framework. Samadhan is the recovery portal. If at all your clients are not paying, or for your MSME clients are not getting paid in time, they can go on the Samadhan portal and file their claim. Sambandh is a portal for connecting the buyer and the seller. All the central public sector undertakings and few other large companies have decided to mandatorily upload their requirement of goods and services on this Sambandh portal. And MSMEs can go register themselves on the data bank on the Sambandh portal and see which are the live tenders that are going on the Sambandh portal. And based on that, there can be a choice between a buyer and a seller, and there can be a transaction or trade between them. Sampark is a job portal. Any MSME wanting to employ someone or any unemployed person wanting to get his resume listed, it's like a Naukri.com for MSMEs. So Samadhan, Sambandh, and Sampark are three cornerstones of the MSME Ministry's initiative under the Ministry's initiative. The RBI, the first important thing that RBI did is that loans to MSMEs are under the priority sector lending. Now, depending on your bank and your status, there is a priority sector lending of almost 20% that banks need to lend only to the priority sector. And MSMEs fall within a part of this priority sector. So if your bank has given you loan, it will check the box for the bank that yes, money has gone to MSME and 20% of the loan book needs to be given to priority sector. There is a scheme that RBI has, which is even on today, which is the interest subvention scheme. And under that, if a MSME applies for that interest subvention scheme, you can get a discount on the interest rate or a subvention on the interest rate almost up to 2% under that scheme. And if you have a valid MSME registration, if it is for your working capital, make sure that you opt for this interest subvention scheme. And some details are available in the next slide as well. TREDS. TREDS is a trade receivable discounting sort of stock exchange. We'll see a complete detailed slide on this because it's a very important initiative and one of the things that I feel can really change in terms of how MSMEs operate. RBI has a liberalized provisioning norm for MSMEs and even debt restructuring for MSMEs. There is, as we speak, a one-time settlement option available for MSMEs till till December 2020, in which MSMEs can restructure their loans. And even for banks, the provision norms are much easier if it is lending to an MSME. The Ministry of Corporate Affairs introduced a requirement that every company twice a year needs to intimate to the ROC that what is the outstanding dues to MSMEs. Many of us in the compliance practice would have filed those forms on behalf of our clients, wherein disclosure needs to be done of payments that are outstanding to MSMEs. Now, once you have the data, that data can be used to enforce prompt payment along with interest. MCA has introduced a fast track scheme for closure of companies, not restricted to MSMEs, but smaller companies can avail of that benefit of fast track closure. MCA has also mandated that in every company's annual report, the financial statements, you need to disclose that what is the amounts due to MSMEs and what is the amounts due to others, which is, as far as the creditor schedule is concerned, many of us as CEs would know there is a breakup into payment to MSMEs and payment to others. That disclosure is again mandated by MCA. The Ministry of Finance has brought in special provisions under Insolvency and Bankruptcy Code. So Insolvency and Bankruptcy Code has gone through a lot of changes and evolved over the past 2 years. But there is always the question that can a promoter of an insolvent company again bid for that company? We saw it in the case of SR. We saw it in various other matters where promoters wanted to again bid for a company that was insolvent because of them or not. Now, if a company is MSME, then there's section 240A under the IBC, which says that the promoters of a MSME company are allowed to rebid for their company and they will not be disqualified under the provisions of 29A. So that encourages, if it is a MSME registration, then you can rebid for your company and control the operations once again. There are some tax benefits and exemptions, not necessary to MSMEs, but in relation to smaller companies like the composition scheme or pay me a fixed tax and don't worry about maintaining your accounts, audit and all those initiatives. And the Atmanirbhar Bharat, which is of course spearheaded by the Ministry of Finance, but it's a joint initiative of various ministries, and we'll talk about the changes proposed under Atmanirbhar Bharat. The state governments, now all of or most of the state governments have their individual schemes. Like in Maharashtra, we have the package scheme of investing that allows subsidies and loans and a waiver from electricity bills, reduced stamp duty, GST credit in relation to MSMEs. Similarly, Sanjay Podarji just shared with me that even in West Bengal, we have the Bangladeshi scheme that has been initiated in July 2020, which is specifically for MSMEs. And if you are a MSME and you are setting up a new unit, or if you are expanding your existing unit, and they have categorized the scheme into zones A, B, C, D, E, and depending on the zone where you are setting up, you will get benefits. And I quite like the benefits that they are giving there in terms of interest liability waiver of almost up to 50% of the interest, GST refunds, waiver of electricity duties, stamp duties, and various incentives were there in that Bangladeshi scheme. And it's available online. And, I think we should go through that so that we know which are the benefits in West Bengal available to MSMEs. So this is the list of schemes of the Ministry of MSME, the 30 schemes or the 32 ward schemes. You will see it is spread across industry. You have for the COIR, you have for export, you have for Z certification, you have for ISO 9001, ISO 14001. You have a marketing assistance scheme. So if you want to participate in the international trade fair, the to and fro of the air ticket or setting up a booth over there is subsidized by the MSME ministry scheme. Or if you want to have an international show in India, there is a scheme in that for marketing assistance as well. And all of these schemes in a snapshot, 1 page per scheme, are available on champions.gov.in. So do go through these schemes, and if you feel some of these are relevant for you or your clients, then certainly these are important schemes. And some of the few others I have covered in detail, but the entire detail is available on champions.gov.in. We spoke about the recovery initiatives. Now, what does the Act say? The Act says that any buyer, let's take an example as chartered accountant, my firm is registered under MSME DA, and I have a client who essentially is a buyer. Now, any buyer of an MSME has to make payment before the date agreed upon with him or the appointed date. So if I have agreed that I will get payment within 21 days, then that is the agreed upon date. Or if I have not agreed anything, then by default the law says that appointed date is when the payment needs to be done. What is the appointed date? Appointed date is the date that is 15 days from the date of acceptance. So once I deliver my goods or services, uske 15 दिन में you need to make me payment. If you don't make payment, then there are violation and repercussions to that. They also have a concept of deemed acceptance. So date of acceptance is very simple, delivery date. But deemed acceptance is once I make delivery, if I don't hear any objections back from you within 15 days, then it is deemed accepted. So 15 दिन में if that client or customer doesn't write it back to me that Anand, your services had this problem, it is a deemed acceptance. Your meter starts from the 15th day of that day when you had delivered the services. Also, जो मैंने 21 days की बात की, that I have negotiated a day of 21 days, that can never exceed more than 45 days. So even if the buyer and the MSME want to accept a 180-day credit period, that is not possible. The credit period cannot exceed 45 days. But अगर आपने कम agree किया हुआ है या कुछ भी agree नहीं किया हुआ है, तो 15 days is the credit period that you have. If payment doesn't happen at the end of that 15th day, interest at monthly rest on a compounded basis will be chargeable at 3 times the bank rate notified by Reserve Bank. So if it is 8%, let's say the bank rate, we are talking about 24% compound interest with monthly rest that will be payable by the buyer to the MSME. Now this is a large amount once claimed, or if claimed, is something that the MSME can have. And it's also a big deterrent for companies not to delay payments to MSMEs. To top it up, the interest paid to the MSMEs is disallowed for tax purposes. In fact, this is coming from the MSME Act. And MSME Act is saying that under the provisions of Income Tax Act, this interest will be disallowed. Now, in fact, there is a proposal by RBI to the CBDT that not only interest, the entire payment of expense or purchase should be disallowed if payment has not been paid within that appointed date. If that comes in, you are talking about a large expense being disallowed and just not interest. But as we speak today, interest is disallowed for that particular buyer if it has to pay to the MSME. Question always was that this was always good in law, right? I mean, I will tell my client and client will pay, but it never happens so. It is in India, and the legal process in India has its own pros and cons. Sometimes the process of litigation is more than the punishment that one gets at the end of the litigation. So given all that realities, the ministry has set up what are known as Facilitation Council or Micro and Small Enterprises Facilitation Council. There are now councils in every state and in fact every city, and any MSME has concerns of non-payment, this is a forum to go. You don't have to go to High Court, City Civil Court, NCLT. You just need to file a complaint with the MSEFC. In fact, the provisions are so pro-MSME that you need to file in your own city or own state. So if you are sitting out of West Bengal and Kolkata and you have provided services to someone in Mumbai, if you want to file a complaint, you have to sit and file in Kolkata only. No need to come to where the registered office of your client is. So it's a reverse way and a pro MSME way for recovering. This MSEFC is a deemed arbitrator under the Arbitration and Conciliation Act. So it has powers of an arbitrator, and there is a time frame within 90 days that this particular body needs to come out with a arbitration order, whether payment is to be made or payment is not to be made. Mind you, these recovery initiatives are only for micro and small enterprises. Medium enterprises don't have the benefits of this recovery. There are 33 such states and union territories that have notified the council, and these are operational, and all of them have constituted councils as per the provision of the act. The good part, or one more good part, is that if the supplier or the buyer needs to appeal against an order of this council, it first has to deposit 75% of the amount. Just like a ITO to a CIT to a ITAT, where you have to keep depositing and then go up in the appeal. Similarly, even at a first level, if the council has said the buyer will have to deposit 75% of the amount and only then go into appeal. Again, the problem was there is law, there is a mechanism, but how does the operational things work? There is still an administration there. So government set up this online portal called Samadhan, samadhan.msme.gov.in. This portal ensures that you don't have to physically go to the respective council in your city or in your state. Utna bhi jaane ki zarurat nahi hai. Go on this portal, use your Udyog Aadhaar number, upload a scan copy of your invoice or work order. Even if you don't have an invoice or a work order, no problem. Just use an affidavit that you have supplied these services, you have supplied these goods, upload a scan copy with your Udyog Aadhaar number or Udyam registration, and the complaint will automatically go to that facilitation council. There is tracking mechanism under the Samadhan portal as to how many complaints have been filed, how many have been resolved. So once it gets into the system, the whole digital way, you can track much more better. Some questions come very commonly is that whether claim can be made even if I don't have a registration number when services were provided. What happens is that I have provided services 6 months before, but I never had a MSME registration. But now I have registered myself for an MSME. Can I now use that number for historical services that I have rendered? The answer is yes. There is a Delhi High Court judgment in Ramki Infrastructure where Delhi High Court said that registration is only an evidence of your eligibility. Your eligibility was always there as an MSME when you provided the services. So when you provided the services, if you were falling within this category, the fact that you have subsequently taken registration wouldn't matter, and you will still get the benefits under the Samadhan platform. Whether this is available to a medium enterprise, answer is no. Whether silence of the buyer after physical receipts of goods can make a claim ineligible for admission, answer is no. If within 15 days, the buyer or the supplier does not raise an objection, it is deemed acceptance and nothing doing, make payment along with interest, it what the MSFC will say. Whether legal notice is a prerequisite, again answer is no. If I have a matter already going on in a court, can I again go to MSEFC? The answer is no. For existing matters that are already ongoing in a court, you cannot go to this particular forum. But for non-initiated matters or new matters, you can consider going to the council and finishing it within 90 days rather than a process under the judicial system which can get stretched beyond a point. So Samadhan is a very, very interesting initiative, and quite of us or most of us should start using that. Even as chartered accountants, we are eligible for using this portal. Some other initiatives are also SIDBI, Small Industries Development Bank of India. It has special loan packages and schemes for MSMEs. The good part about technology and digital is that no longer you need to go to that bank, make an application, have agents, and get it done. All of this facilitates an online application, and they'll be tracking that whether it has been paid or not. In fact, when the PPE or the personal protective equipment scheme came for the corona, government initiated a loan scheme for making PPEs and masks in India. Within 3 days, the whole scheme was online through SIDBI. The suppliers made applications, disbursement happened online, and within 3 days, loan was disbursed to the SIDBI online platform to eligible people over there in the PPE framework. So SIDBI website, again, one important point from key benefits. There is a credit guarantee scheme for MSMEs. Again, this is as a part of the Ministry of MSME, where if you don't have a collateral or if you don't have security, banks will not grant loan. And what can be done is that you can opt for guarantee by Government of India up to 2 crore rupees. And you don't need to give any collateral or any third party guarantee in relation to that loan. There is a guarantee fee to be paid under this particular scheme. But once you make that payment of guarantee fee, you don't need to give additional collateral or third party guarantee. And this is eligible for up to 2 crores that can be availed by any MSME. We spoke about the interest subvention scheme, where 2% interest subvention is available for incremental credit to MSME. This has a cap of 1 crore rupees is where the interest subvention can be availed of. There's a credit linked subsidy scheme. So if you are taking loan for improving your technology as a MSME, then a 15% subsidy is available subject to a cap of 1 crore. Question will come, how do we apply for these schemes? What is the process? One answer, champions.gov.in. Go on that particular scheme. It has a method how to apply. Most of these are online applications. Make an application and you'll have the result within that track time. There are schemes of intellectual property and international marketing where 50% subsidy for any patent registration that one needs to do, and international trade fairs participation is reimbursed. We spoke about the TREDS or the receivable discounting platform. Now, what is that? The common problem today is that I have an invoice that is outstanding, but I am going to get paid after 180 days. And that drags my working capital as a MSME. So that is a problem that TREDS is wanting to solve. What is TREDS? Assume that I am a MSME and I have supplied certain goods to a large company, let's call Maruti Udyog. Now I have a 50 lakh rupee bill that I have raised on Maruti Udyog Limited. I have supplied the goods, but I will get payment, let's say, only after 45 days. So what do? I want money urgently. I can go online on the TREDS platform, and there are 3 stock exchanges, 3 exchanges which are now live. That is M1, RXIL, and Invoice Mart. As a MSME with my Udyam registration number, I can upload my invoice on that platform. It is mandatory for every company with more than 500 crore turnover and all central public sector undertakings to mandatorily register on TREDS. So Maruti Udyog, being a large company, will also be registered on the TREDS platform. So when I upload the invoice, I will say that my invoice is raised on Maruti Udyog. Maruti Udyog will get a notification that your supplier Anand has raised a 50 lakh rupee invoice on you. Do you want to accept it or reject it? Maruti will say, yes, I accept it. Once the invoice is accepted by the customer, it goes to all the lenders on the lenders portal. And any lender who would like to discount that bill or give me a factoring support can do on that particular invoice. For a lender, it is meeting the priority sector lending of 20% because he is financing the MSME. He has confirmed commitment from Maruti Udyog that after 45 days payment is going to be made. So he has no problem in giving a loan to me, which has been assured by Maruti Udyog. So as a MSME, I don't need to take any loan facility. I don't have to take any documentation, and I get a without recourse receivable discounting facility, which is unsecured. In fact, the rate that I can get is also of a Maruti backed invoice and not my individual rate, which would be, let's say, in high teens. But if it is a Maruti secured invoice, I can even get it at 8, 9, 10%, depending on what the lenders bid for. So, benefit for MSMEs, benefit for corporates. They don't have to pay on the first day. They can approve the invoice and ultimately it will be paid by a lender. I don't have to do. Benefit for lenders. They complete their priority sector limit. They get corporate security for a MSME loan, and they don't have to do any documentation of filing a charge, going and registering a factoring arrangement, nothing. So this is one platform that is operational now since 2 years. Last year, almost 11,000 crores were disbursed on these three exchanges, and this has a lot of potential where we can upload our bills to marquee customers and we get credit upfront. There is a government e-procurement market which is there, and there is now a proposal that TREDS and government e-procurement can get merged so that every government invoice can be paid by the lenders within that due date. So this is one initiative that not many of us are aware, but becomes very helpful for us and our clients. All of these benefits were available even before Atmanirbhar Bharat. Under Atmanirbhar Bharat, there are new sets of benefits that they announced. The first is, as most of us would be knowing, emergency credit line to MSMEs for 3 lakh crores. Overall 20 lakh crore, of which 3 lakh crore is this emergency credit line. It means that if I am an existing borrower and I already have taken loan as of 29th February 2020, 20% additional loan will be given to me on my outstanding loan. Here, MSME registration is not required. You just need to have borrowings lower than 25 crore and your turnover less than 100 crore to be eligible for 20% additional loan. Interest is also capped at 9.25 for banks and 14% for NBFCs. The loan you need to pay within 5-year period with a moratorium of the first 12 months. The scheme can be availed by 31st of October 2020. As we speak, we are seeing a lot of clients and businesses already getting benefit of this particular scheme. In fact, the quota has been almost 40-50% exhausted as we are in August, and many of the companies have availed of this facility. The good part is banks will reach out to you as a part of this scheme if they know that you have an outstanding borrowing and you don't need to run behind banks to opt for this scheme. But in case you or your clients have not availed of this, reaching out to the banks and they are bound to give you this 20% additional loan. If you have more than one bank, you can take NOC from the other banks and take loan only from one bank. That is also possible. The second scheme announced is for the SMA1, SMA2 accounts which are NPA or stressed MSMEs for 20,000 crores. Under that scheme, the ministry or the banks will give 15% up to a maximum of 75 lakhs of loan to the promoter. The emergency credit line goes to the entity or to the MSME. This will be given to the promoter or to the shareholder, and the promoter is required to infuse as equity into the company. So 75 lakh of loan is given to the promoter. 75 comes in as equity in the company. That helps to capitalize the company, and that helps them to raise further loan if required. So this is how is the subordinate debt scheme, and again quite a few entities have availed of this. The third, which is perhaps the most interesting, is equity infusion. The first two are debt, and debt beyond the point is debt, and debt has to be taken in a limited capacity, just like sugar in tea. Beyond the point, if you have debt, you still need to repay and you still need to give interest on that. The third scheme of equity infusion, which has also now started, is government will infuse 50,000 crores into a fund of funds. And that fund will invest into various smaller venture capital funds alternative investment funds, and SIDBI funds. This disbursement is happening through SIDBI today. So SIDBI has listed various funds, and SIDBI does the screening, and the funds also do the screening, and that is how the disbursement is happening. But if 50,000 crore come in as equity and a 2:1 of debt is to equity, we are looking at this reaching maybe 1.5 lakh crore in terms of the equity infusion. The fourth thing that came up is global tenders will be disallowed for orders up to rupees 200 crores. Now, this doesn't mean that foreigners will not be allowed under these tenders. What it means is that the tendering will not be a global tender. In a global tender, when a ministry or a central public sector enterprise comes out with a tender, it will give to the various embassies of the various countries that are there in India. That is a global tender. The embassies will give it back to their home country and see if any company is interested to participate in that tender. So now that process will not be followed for orders up to 200 crores. If they voluntarily come, knowing themselves, then most welcome, but there'll not be a red carpet under that global tender route is what comes in. And last but not the least, under the MSME receivables from government and central public is to be released within 45 days. Now, I don't think this is a benefit. It has to be released within 45 days, but whatever it may be, it is touted as a benefit under Atmanirbhar Bharat that they need to pay within 45 days, and the 45-day period is long over. Friends, I think there will be questions that people would have in terms of registration, in terms of benefits. What I have done is that I have mentioned certain frequently asked questions, which essentially will be a common theme that quite a few may have. And we'll go through the FAQs, and if there is still some questions, we will certainly take up those questions as well. So the first question is it necessary to do any regular filing within the Udyam registration? The answer is no. Once you register yourself for the Udyam registration, there is no subsequent filing that you need to do on an annual basis whenever your size has increased or whenever, like the ROC or the income tax department. Only when it is a upward change into the next category. So downward.
Sorry to interrupt, Anand. I think your microphone has slightly displaced. Earlier, the voice was quite fine. Now it's slightly feeble.
I think some participant.
Yeah. Now it's all right. Now it's all right.
Yeah. So there is no mandatory requirement to file any regular updations to your registration. Once you have that one-time registration, it continues. Only an upward change or a downward change need to be filed with the Udyam registry website. How is the investment value to be calculated? In case assets are purchased in multiple tranches, it may very well happen that we have taken some machines in 2012, some in 2019. What we now do is that you don't need to take track of when was purchased, what was purchased. It is the net WDV as per your income tax block of assets. So what you have disclosed as a net WDV is something that will be calculated without any reference to when the assets were purchased and at what value they were purchased. Are pure trading entities allowed to be registered under Udyog Aadhar or Udyam registration? Answer is no. But if you have some kind of manufacturing or services along with trading, you can certainly register yourself under NIC of that particular manufacturing or service entity. But purely trading, purely retail, purely wholesale are not entities that are allowed under Udyam registration. There are schemes, like for example, the emergency credit scheme is available to traders also. So some schemes may give you benefit which are not linked to MSMEs, but the registration of Udyam, and whenever that is a prerequisite, those are not available to traders. Can professionals like CAs, lawyers, company secretaries register themselves? Answer is yes. We have ourselves gone ahead and done that quite some time before. And in fact, the institute's committee on Code of Ethics, Ethical Standards Board has given out clarifications that chartered accountants and CA firms can register themselves under MSMEDA. Is registration a must for availing benefits available to MSME? I think it's more a practical relevant that you should have a registration. Now there are judgments to say that eligibility is more important rather than the benefits. But if you want to take, let's say the Samadhan initiative, where you need to go online and put up your number, or some of the things where you need your number, it is must that you would have a number. So I would think rather than taking a legal view, it's better that registration is available and then you apply for all of these things. Is there any downside or cost for registration of Udyog Aadhar or Udyam registration? To my mind, of course, there is no cost. There is also no downside, but sometimes there is a fear that clients or customers might get little apprehensive when they are dealing with registered MSMEs, because they know that the registered MSME has a bit of protection available, which maybe a non-registered MSME has not available, and there could be an impact of that maybe on their decision making. But I still don't think it's a downside. These are rights that are available to MSMEs, and if most of the companies are registered at MSMEs, there is little choice available but to comply with these benefits or to grant the benefits to the MSME sector. So apart from that downside, I don't potentially see any issues. In fact, a lot of attempt is now being made that the Samadhan portal also, how can you automate it? Because while there is a law of giving interest, there is now an online portal where you can go. Still, MSME को थोड़ा सा हिचकिचाहट होता है कि अगर मैंने वो क्लाइंट के सामने कंप्लेंट किया, then that is the last of the assignment that I'm getting from the client. Relationship goes for a toss. So how do you avoid that? Which is where from March 31st, 2021, GST is mandatory. So if you have uploaded your invoice on the GST portal and the invoice has been accepted, invoices above a particular threshold, let's say invoice is more than 10 lakh rupees, will be tracked whether payment has been done or not. The fact that GST input has been taken by the other side, it means that services have been accepted. Now automated dispute resolution will start if a 10 lakh rupee invoice is outstanding for more than 45 days. So the idea is that the MSME shouldn't go out and claim that. It should be an automated process. Thereby the relationship angle also doesn't come into play. So all of these initiatives are happening from the government side to make sure that at least the working capital issue is mitigated to a large extent. Most of us as CAs would also understand the working capital issue, especially in times like today. And that is the whole effort and endeavor. If we can reduce that, and to my mind, other than that, I don't see any downside of that happening. So good friends, I think, I wanted to reserve the last half an hour for, questions, if any, and we can take practical questions and take it up from there.
Sure, Anandji, sure. Thank you very much. I think it's a good gesture. There are a lot of questions in the chat box. President, shall I start?
Yes, please.
One question from the President that, is there a remedy or way out for non-compliance of 45 days restriction on the payment by government?
By government?
Yeah.
Yeah, so essentially government can also be, sued under the Samadhan portal. So if you have, let's say, raised an invoice on IOC or on BPCL, even that can be a claim that you can do under the Samadhan portal. In fact, on the Samadhan portal, you have various statistics that are given. And it says that how much government has paid after complaints have been made by MSMEs. So clearly, if government is not paying, you have this right available against them as well.
But practically, this never happens.
Practically, sir, it's up to us. We'll have to push for this, bring that awareness. And now that automatic linkage, if it will happen, that will be a game changer. Plus, the disallowance of expenses is one major thing that if it comes in, it would prompt people to make payment in time.
Thank you. Another question from the President that, can a bill raised on a central government department or state government department can be discounted on trades?
So currently, all central public sector undertakings are a part of trade. In fact, if you go to this any one of the exchanges website, let's say Invoice Smart, you will see a drop-down menu of which all companies are registered under it, and all the PSCs and SPs are registered, and companies more than 500 crores are registered. So if your client is falling under that category, you can discount that particular invoice of that particular client.
No, no, my question was not to the PSUs. My question was the government departments, by floating various tenders, they make purchases directly. Various departments like defense or maybe irrigation, all these departments purchase, and I think they are not listed under that trades, although they also purchase more than 500 crores during year. So is there any compulsion that whichever department purchases more than 500 crores, they will have to compulsorily come on trades?
As of now, sir, it is linked to the CPEs. In step two, the GEM portal, which is the government e-procurement, is going to get linked with the trades. That is why the entire government e-procurement will also come on trades. But as it stands today, it is only this public sector undertakings which are covered.
Okay.
Our member Paras Bhai has some question. Paras ji, can you unmute yourself and ask the question? Paras Bhai ji? I think he's.
I've unmuted him.
Paras ji, can you ask your question?
He's not there. Bhaiya, there are two more questions in my chat box. Can I ask them?
Sure, definitely. Go ahead.
There was a question from Vishal Garg. Whether motor car, mobile phone, computer, CCTV camera be counted as plant and machinery for a trading concern?
So one is for the trading concern. If it is pure trading, then it doesn't matter because you can't get registered as a MSME. Then these thresholds are not relevant for you. But assuming that you are a manufacturing or a services entity, you need to see under which gross block or under which category of assets have you classified them into. So for a service enterprises, this might amount to equipment, but for a manufacturing, it might not be plant and machinery. So certainly it's your classification as per your income tax, because you have depreciation rates linked to that. That will matter rather than your interpretation of what is what.
Okay.
And currently, it's a very automated and a lax requirement. It's not too stringent in terms of what is falling where. As long as you have filed that return, they pick up that number and they grant registration.
Okay. Next is, can business that are selling goods after getting job work done from third parties register as MSME?
Yes, this was a question, and also there is a judgment of the Facilitation Council now that even if you are doing job work, providing goods, it is essentially will amount to manufacturing, and you are eligible. It's not a trading that you are just buying and selling or a retail or a wholesale. The fact that you are doing some contribution, maybe through your own or through a third party, makes you eligible for getting registration as a manufacturer for MSME.
Okay. Thank you. Paras ji, can you speak now?
Yeah.
Yeah. Please go ahead.
Yeah. So my question is, being an auditor, I have seen in couple of financials this interest on MSME is outstanding from couple of years. So what is the way out for this? Means the entities are saying that we are discussing with the MSME vendors and this interest is outstanding and we will continue. I don't know, from so many, 5-6 years it is continued. What is the way out for this? Whether they are liable to pay or they can reverse this interest?
So they are certainly liable to pay if the MSE is pursuing that particular matter. So from an audit perspective, if there is, let's say, a full and final settlement that is given by that MSE to the client saying that, look, in settlement of all my claims, it has been done and concluded, then to a large extent, you may want to, write back that particular provision of interest that you may have. But in absence of that, there is a legal claim or there is a legal liability. But if someone needs to claim that, so that will be important as to whether there is any ongoing claim or not. Until you get that no objection or a release, it's better to continue because you never know when it might come up. The law of limitation or the Limitation Liability Act also doesn't apply to these claims. per law, you can go to a council even after 5 years to claim your interest.
Okay.
Shyam, any other questions there in the chat box?
No, no more questions.
Sanjay ji, any more questions?
I'm not finding any such questions are there. I think.
No, it's
I think one question that sometimes comes up is that whether hospitals are eligible for registration. That answer is also yes. We get questions of NBFCs, whether NBFCs can register themselves. That is also yes in terms of services. Whether developers or contractors can get registered. That is also yes. So this is a initiative which is encouraging people to get registered and hence needs to be interpreted liberally. As far as registration is concerned, virtually everything other than agriculture, wholesale, and retail is something that can form under the MSME category.
Anandji, what about this export turnover? Whether you are going to exclude that export turnover from your total turnover?
Yes, from the turnover, you need to exclude the export turnover and then calculate what is the net turnover for your eligibility. There was an interesting question last time when there was a session that if I am selling to SEZ or OU, whether it amounts to export or not.
Yes, yes.
Because from the perspective, maybe GST, I would treat it as in the course of export or export. But from my MSME perspective, in my income tax return, maybe I will not show it separately as a export or a domestic. So now, since it's picking up as per the ITR, the view is more and more that only if it is actual export should it be considered and not to EOU. But earlier the view was that even if it is a EOU, it should amount to export of services.
Girdharji wants to ask a question. Girdhar, yeah.
Just one minute. I've got one addendum
Okay.
to that question. So basically in ITR, we are filing our net turnover, then we are showing tax separately. So in that case, your turnover will be only your net turnover without GST.
Net turnover without GST.
Okay, thank you. Shyam, you proceed now.
Girdhar, yeah, you can ask. I have unmuted you. Girdhar, yeah.
I think you asked the question on behalf of Girdhar now.
Okay.
Hello,
Yes,
am
you
I
are
audible?
Yeah,
Yes.
audible.
Anandji, I have a question. Say there is an entity which has 90% trading activities and 10% service activity. So it get validly registered itself. Now it has trading dues. So from the same customer or means a separate customer. So can it claim those dues under the MSME Act?
So there are again a slightly conflicting judgments here given by various MSFCs, because what is happening is that at a different state, that MSFC can give a different judgment than the other MSME that is lying at Bombay. So in the Bombay MSFC, there are now judgments that once an entity is registered as a MSME, any amount that it has given, be it trading, be it wholesale, be it retail, it has a right to go and claim because the entity is registered. So then you don't hair split that post registration, what is the trading, what is the manufacturing, what is the servicing. So even if you have 10% kind of manufacturing turnover, you can file a case for trading turnover. So keep in mind your jurisdiction MSFC also needs to take that call because it's a very state-wise and a city-wise subject that these judgments are bound by.
Or no clarity, one can say.
I think you need to again, take the view that this is a beneficial provision. This is a provision that the government has brought in to support MSMEs, and hence a liberal view needs to be taken.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, yeah, it's done. No more.
President?
Yes. So thank you, Anandji, for a nice deliberation. In simple words, you explained the whole of the MSME content, and I am sure the participants have been benefited greatly with the deliberation, and none of the questions was left unattended. All the questions were satisfactorily attended. I once again thank you, and I request our Joint Secretary Barkha Agarwal to offer a formal vote of thanks for the speaker.
There is one question by Akash Bansal which has just come in. What are the repercussions if pure trading concern takes registration as a MSME by declaring itself to be a manufacturer service provider. So until recently, there was no check and balance available. There were no penal provisions as well. But now the recent notification that has come in has brought in penal provisions. So if at all there is a wrong disclosure or wrong information that you have submitted, there is now criminality and a penalty that has come in, which earlier was not there. So keep that in mind, and that is the repercussion that we have now.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Barka,
Barka, please.
Yeah. Thank on behalf of DGP and today's participants to see Anand Bhatia for sparing his valuable time and giving insight, knowledge, and recent announcements pertaining to MSME sector.
Barka is muted, I think.
Oh, I'm not.
She's no.
Barka, unmute yourself.
Yeah, I've unmuted myself. Can you hear me?
You're not audible, Barkaji.
I have unmuted myself.
Yeah.
Can you listen me?
Yes, yeah.
Some part of the Calcutta is about connectivity issues.
Yeah, I mean, the technology works both ways. It allows to come to Kolkata and then some of these things keep happening.
President Barka could not connect, I think, probably.
Hello.
Barka, you are not audible. Please speak loudly.
Hello. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah. Yes, now you speak. Yeah.
Thank you, President. I thank on behalf of DTP and today's participants to CA Anand Bhatia for sparing his valuable time and giving insight, knowledge on recent announcement pertaining to MSME sector. I thank all the participants for patient hearing. Thank you all.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Barka.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.